That or his dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. Round and round we come, full circle back here where we are, man. And I'll tell you what, I don't even waste the time telling you guys that it's going to be a shorter show because I lie every time I say that. I should already be in my car on my way to the football field. My son, I know you're going to be like, well, wasn't he just playing the other day? My son, little Jerry Jr., he's playing junior varsity and getting reps with the varsity team as well. So he's got 2 games a week to plan around. And for some reason, the school district that he's in these kids play at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Normal people play at 7 o'clock. Friday night lights? No. How about Friday night lunch, But anyway, people have work and schedules. I said it the other day. These poor kids end up playing in front of maybe, if they're lucky, 24 parents that are able to get there because the majority of them are at work. I'm lucky. I'm blessed enough to be able to get out there. But, even I have to literally leave for a couple of hours and then come back and work a couple of hours later than usual, which that's cool. That's what you do when you're a parent. I'm not even worried about that. But point is, not everybody can do that. I work for myself, so I can pick when I leave and when I come back and go to work. It stinks because those kids try hard, man. And I know there's some parents that just aren't there because they're crappy parents, but there's a lot of parents that can't be there, and it stinks, man. I know what it feels like to look up in the stands and not see anybody there rooting for you. But anyways, my son's making it double tough, which is a good thing because they see enough in him that he's getting obviously he starts on the junior varsity level, but they like what he's doing enough that they're also getting him in with the varsity. During tight games, he doesn't play much with the varsity, but when there's a blowout on either side, he gets some fourth quarter reps. Matter of fact, he got a sack and a couple of tackles last week in some garbage time, which is cool because, hey, man, 2 months ago, my son had never played organized football before, and he very quickly got a shot to take some reps with the varsity team. Let me tell you, I told you at the beginning of the show that we went up to Pittsburgh this weekend. Well, those guys, a lot of those guys have seen my son since he was a little guy because he's as old as my wrestling career, man. And, man, there were some people that hadn't seen him for years that were just like, are you kidding me? That's not like your brother. That's little Jerry. And I'm like, yeah, I bring my own linebacker with me now, man. I got my own bodyguard here now. People were just amazed. I said, yeah, I see him every day. So I am amazed when I see other people's reactions because I forget how big he's getting. I'm like, man, I jokingly call him my linebacker. He really is a linebacker in training right now. And he's so young. He's got a lot of growing to do. But anyway, so I'm getting ready to head out. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to jump in the car, speed across town, break a couple traffic laws perhaps, and get myself there in time to watch little Jerry at his junior varsity game today. But we've got some work to do before I get out the door. A couple of things I wanted to get into with you guys. We'll talk about tomorrow in a moment. We've got a loaded Tuesday coming your way as well. Cavaliers, they're getting back in action tonight, and they're playing the Chicago Bulls at Quicken Loans Arena. Coach Blatt said he's going to give it the regular season feel tonight, which they need to. They haven't had any time yet this preseason where they've gotten all of the starters out there, their rotations right, the minutes are going to be longer. They're going to play this one as if it's a regular season game against the Bulls, which is the team that I believe the Cavs are destined to fall short of the NBA Finals to. I've got the Bulls as my preseason favorite. If they stay healthy, if they don't have any season-changing injuries, I've got the Bulls being the one team that definitely can outlast the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals and get to the NBA championship. So tonight will be a good little preview of that a little bit, a good little check out on that. But even LeBron today, when talked to about the media, he said the same thing. He said, hey, this is the team. And excuse me, that game is down in Columbus. I don't know if I said at the Q. They played at the Q the other night. They're on the road doing the tour of Ohio, all for Ohio on this one. They're at OSU in Buckeye country for this one here. But anyways, even LeBron came out and said, hey, the Bulls are the team. They're the team to beat. They've got chemistry. They're better than us right now. And I like some of the stuff that he said, because people use team building. That's one of those buzzwords that we talk about all the time that coaches and players like to use, and people talk about that trip to Brazil. And I like something that LeBron said that's different than the way he looked at stuff like that before. Remember all the dancing, the choreographed stuff, the choreography, the different things that those Cavs teams did? They thought that was team chemistry. They thought that was the bonding, and they thought having that relationship. It's like when people say your parents can't necessarily be your friends while they're trying to be your parents. There's got to be those definitions in relationships, and then you can evolve them over time and become a kid's friend later as you're adult. But there's certain times where you wear the parent role. Anyways, point being is you got to be able to separate friendship from business and friendship from relationships and things like that. And the Cavs thought that was why they were such a great bonded team, because they had all that chemistry. And then what happened when they were hit face to face with adversity? They couldn't fight through it. They folded. They died down in the moment, to use a quote from that legendary press conference there near the end of LeBron's time. But LeBron James himself at that time thought that was made them such a great chemistry, a great bonded team. And what he talked about now is so different, and it's because he learned it by going through it in the process of winning a championship. This is a place where I'll definitely credit some growth. He said, people think that we're not going to struggle. The guys on this team don't think we're ever going to fight with each other. They think we're going to have this great, easygoing season. You don't define yourself during the good times, and everybody knows this. You define yourself during the bad times, and you've got to get to a point where Kevin Love doesn't think LeBron's passing the ball enough, and LeBron doesn't think that Kyrie's playing good enough defense, and Deion Waiters thinks that everybody's ignoring him for Kyrie Irving, and so on and so forth. And you get that, and then you hash it out, and then you get through it, and then you start to create that real bond that comes with losing. And then LeBron brought that up. Losing games that you should have won, getting into arguments, getting into ego, and all of that stuff that comes together, testing each other out. You got to get through that. Think about, I point back to when LeBron, Wade, and Bosh got together in 2010. That game when they came to Cleveland for the first time. The Cavaliers had started their season playing about 500. Think about it. Two teams were playing 500 ball that night when LeBron returned to Cleveland. The Heat were like 9-8 through 17 games. The Cavs were hovering right around 500. They beat Boston to start the season, and Boston had just beat the Heat. So people were thinking, hey, maybe the Cavs can survive and be okay without LeBron. And the Heat were dying. They were struggling. They were barely playing 500 after throwing themselves a parade before the season started. They came to Cleveland. Remember that atmosphere when they was booed on? I mean, it was one of the greatest atmospheres I've ever seen for a sports event, because the animosity towards LeBron was so huge. You're never going to see something like that again in local sports, I don't think, unless they raise Art Modell from the grave and he can show up at Brown Stadium. It was ruthless. But what happened? That was the galvanizing month. The Heat were mad at each other. They were sniping at each other. They came to Cleveland, and they were public enemy number one. Bam. They mobilized. They galvanized. They destroyed the Cavaliers. Miami went nothing but up from that point on. They went and won 21 of their next 22 games and went to the finals. And they lost in the end, but they went to the finals. Cavs lost practically every game the rest of that season. That sent them right down into the gutter once and for all. Remember that? That's what I'm saying. That first 2 months is what the Cavs are going to go through here. And then perhaps they grow out of that. But I agree 100% that Chicago's the team to beat in the East, and then the Cavs are right there with the other grouping of teams looking to see if they can put it together and rise above. Now, they put it together, they're the team to beat when you get to that point. I just don't know if that point happens this season or next season. When they put it together, it is going to be scary offensively to think about it. But right now, they're not there yet. So keep that in mind. Let's watch tonight's game and get an idea for how this starting unit is going to look as Coach Black gets them out there playing together tonight. It'll be fun to watch, and we'll talk about that coming up here tomorrow. A couple of other things tonight, Monday Night Football. We'll talk tomorrow. Dr. Football, Bill Checkis will be in the house. We'll talk to him. Steelers game tonight. Steelers and the Texans playing. We previewed that earlier. We'll talk about that with Dr. Football. Jeff Gorman from Indians101.com will be here tomorrow. We'll preview the World Series with him as they get ready to kick off the Fall Classic, the 2014 edition. The Royals and the Giants. We'll look ahead to that with Jeff Gorman, talk a little bit about the Indians as well. A lot of things. Doug Plagans, voice of the Monsters. Tough weekend for the Monsters. I didn't even get onto them today because let's just not go from bad to worse, but they got beat both games in Chicago this weekend. Not the best road trip for them. We'll talk to Doug Plagans, voice of the Lake Erie Monsters, hear about that tomorrow. Last thing I wanted to bring up on my way out the door as I continue to glance over at the clock and go, man, you got to get moving, homeboy. But anyways, look at this story coming out of Los Angeles from the NHL. Very interesting to see how they have handled a potential domestic violence situation compared to the NFL. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Slava Voynov is the story here. The man from the Los Angeles Kings, arrested this morning on a domestic violence charge and was immediately suspended indefinitely pending a formal investigation by the NHL. This is the thing that the NFL is afraid to do. The NFL is afraid to take that step because of the due process, and I understand that, but the NHL not afraid to take that step. They're not going to wait out the criminal investigation, and this is something that eventually will be tested by the NFL as they say they're changing this policy. We'll see. But the NHL not hiding behind due process or collective bargaining or any of that. They have a rule that states at any time the league may suspend a player pending a formal review anytime that it would create a substantial risk of harm to the league's interests or reputation. So they immediately suspended Voynov during the investigation on these domestic violence charges. He will be paid during the suspension, which will eliminate any issues with the union, but he will not play until they decide when, where, why, if he can get out there. And Commissioner Bettman has made no statements about that so far. But, hey, listen, that's right. Fighting on the ice is part of the game. Off the ice is different. My point is I think the NFL has every bit the right to do that as well. They're just very scared to take that risk, and I don't blame them. I saw somebody in the chat room talking about Ray Rice, and I don't know how true this is. I'm going to look into it. I have not heard these stories that I guess are bubbling up. Ray Rice may be reinstated by the NFL within a month. You've got to be kidding me, right? Like, okay, even if you want to reinstate him, there can't possibly be a team in this league dumb enough to sign him. You wouldn't really do that. You would not want to be that lightning rod of a team, would you? Would you? Let's not wait till November then. Let's just bring him back in December so we can tie Ray Rice in with the breast cancer month, you know, as we continue being as disingenuous as possible. Let's lather Ray Rice in pink as he returns to the football field. You've got to be kidding me. Anyway, I'm going to look into that. I know that right now that's just what's being said out there, but my gut, I had a feeling that there was going to be some difficulty enforcing this simply because lawyers do what lawyers do, and I don't understand why the federal government or whatever legal branch you would want to appeal things to would get it. To me, I mean, if I do something and you take my privilege to drive a car, it's exactly that. It's my privilege to drive a car. I'm not owed it, even though I can walk to the lot and buy a car. I'm not owed the right to drive it. Just because you can run with a football doesn't mean you're owed the right to do it. People say, oh, but that's how they make a living. That's not true. Unless you can literally only do one thing in your life. If all you're able to do is stand up and sit down, then your job is standing up and sitting down, and that's the only way that you can make a living. Other than that, that's not true. You are whatever you are. if right now, do you know how many people I know that have had me? Do you know how many different things I've done in my life? Let's see. Yeah, now I'm a radio guy, but guess what?